Hello and welcome to the skating lesson. I'm Jennifer Kirk.
And I'm Dave Lees.
While we were in St. Paul last week, we had the opportunity to interview 1987 world bronze medalist and 1988 Olympian Caryn Kadavy.
Yes, now Caryn is an interesting figure skater because she never made it to nationals as a novice or a junior. She never made it until she got a call from Carlo Fassi after a sectional championship when she was the odd woman out in fifth that he believed in her and wanted to coach her when she was at mids. And our conversation with Caryn picks up right when Carlo had called her at home, what that meant to her and her family. They were living away from home in Chicago. They were at the end of their rope. They didn't know if they should continue. So this is our interview with Caryn, and this is as she's speaking about Carlo Fassi scouting her out and what that meant to her career.
Within that time frame when I did take from Carlo and went there to the Broadmoor, it was just like a different feel, but also you got you so much more exposed to performing, and either from the convention shows from the Broadmoor Hotel that would go over to the Broadmoor World Arena, you would do like these little exhibitions and also just get out there and do your jumps in front of the audience at all times, and he would get judges to come in, and it really helped, I think, my skating a lot in that sense, and I was just very excited at that point, and I was very lucky that he did call, because I think my career would have been over if he didn't.
Well, so much has been said about Carlo as the politician, the master packager, knows how to put you girls together. So what was he like as a coach just every day in the rink training with him?
You know, it was mainly a very regimented type of atmosphere, and I think there was a lot of other people at that time. I mean, a lot of the other skaters that I went in at that summer, I mean, it was like guys and girls and everybody came in, and people all from all over the world, and so you really kind of were in a regimented type of atmosphere, and it was, you know, 3 sessions of figures in the morning, you would do 3 sessions of freestyle on that day, and incorporate sometimes the ballet and then a little bit of off-ice training that I snuck and did. But, you know, at that time, I think it was just his way of keeping things running so regimented and smoothly, and, you know, it meant business. I mean, a 20-minute lesson was hard. I mean, you would just get through so much stuff, and he'd just make sure that you would just do many run-throughs of your program, never stopping, and, you know, doing as many triples as you can in a 20-minute type of lesson. And I think that at that point I was really ready for that, because I had all my jumps, and I was, I think, you know, artistically creative at that point, and I think he just wanted to really train me hard at that moment, and that's what happened. So,
what do you think he added to your skating actually to make you become successful at that time? Confidence? What was it about the training?
Well, I think part of it was, you know, Carlo really believed in my skating, and when somebody believes in you and you hear that from somebody, I think that really goes far. And part of it was that I needed to believe in myself, and so when somebody really said, you know, I really believe in your skating, and was there for you, and especially in the beginning with Carlo, he had other students training with him too, so that competitiveness was really important for me to be feeding off of other skaters. But I really felt that the most important thing was that he got me more exposed. He trained me, and he really believed in my skating, and that was the package. I mean, it really was, and he kept up with the consistency of my technique and the figures and just the exposure that he gave me.
Now, he coached alongside his wife, Christa.
Yes.
So what was the dynamic like between the two of them? I mean, was one good cop, bad cop? What was it like taking from both of them simultaneously?
Well, it is nice. Yeah, I think it would be great. I mean, I coach a lot myself, and it would be nice to have like a partner in crime. I mean, it's nice to go back and forth and bounce off ideas, and it's hard to find that. And they were lucky that they had each other. I would feel that, you know, Christa really gave a little bit of more, even though she was a tough trainer, she did have that womanly side and softer side of her that really gave you the woman's touch in a way. And then, you know, Carlo was just more of like that, let's go, one after another, classic, keep going, and none of them. Carlo and Chris, they're just a great team. They just really did a great job together, so I couldn't ask for more.
So Carlo was known for being a master at figures. So were you someone who liked training figures, competing figures? How did you feel about it?
Well, you know, I did. I actually liked figures. They were nerve-wracking to compete in, and I really just had a tough time sometimes with them because of that. And I remember at the Olympics in 1988, I was running in fourth after my second figure, and on the third figure, it was the loop. It was the left forward paragraph loop, and I came through change of edge, and I skidded a little bit, and I went down to seventh, and it just it's one of those things that you just never know, and it's a very nerve-wracking type of skill when you're competing in them. So it's one of those things. But she was very good at training them because we would have a lot of nice ice to lay out on. We would dedicate one figure to 45 minutes, and we had 3 through the season, so you really drilled them in and were able to really hone them, and it was really kind of like a warm-up to your freestyle, and I really felt that was something I needed to get me warmed up and reminded of like staying over the skating side and your posture, and just warming up those edges and ankles and knees, and it was really good, I think, in my skating, and I really liked them. And I know today they don't have that appreciation so much, and I think that the kids would really enjoy it, but also they would also not have to be reminded so much to stay over their skating side. I think that is such their free hip is always so low, and you're always having to kind of remind them of that and hone that in and do different skills to keep them practiced in a different way than just freestyle skating with jumping and spinning. They really need those basics, so which I knew so well.
Well, you trained alongside Jill Trenery, which was said to eventually become a very difficult training situation. So was it always that way? Did it start?
No, it didn't. In fact, I think we were really good friends. I mean, we were best friends in the very beginning, but I think that there was just some influences that she had too, and I just, I try to keep my nose to the grindstone and do my job when I went there and to train, and I feel like we got along just fine. It's just that it's inevitable that when you're training with one of your top competitors, it's like Ashley Wagner and Gracie Gold competing every day of their life, and then going to the nationals and competing and going to worlds competing. It's just impossible to feel like ever a letdown, and you kind of need to let down your hair at your own arena and at your own training facility and make the mistakes, and then go to the nationals and just feel like I'm on, and you feel those adrenaline, butterflies and everything. I would feel that adrenaline and the butterflies almost every day of my training life, especially the last probably 2 years before the Olympics. And that's where it became difficult, and you'd have cameras coming in, and then you just kind of like wondering if your coach is really on your side. and even though he'd try to do the best job, Carlo, with that, and also Christa, sometimes you would come in with the same color dress, or you would want a separate choreographer, but then they ended up getting the same choreographer for that person because they wanted that too, and you just feel like it was a really difficult training situation. But at that time, it was 2 years before the Olympics, and where would you go?
Did you ever think about changing?
I did, but at that time, I think that, like you said, things were a little bit more political, and nowadays people can change, and it doesn't matter as much because the judging systems there's a new champion, every year. It's a different type of era, and I guess it was hard for me to kind of step out of that picture when that was something that was so good for me too. And so there was good, and then there was some bad there. And I just tried to take the good, and I incorporated another coach that came in, Connie Nakamura. And Connie Nakamura was Emi Watanabe's sister. And Carlo hired her, actually, like when I was there, I've only known that she was there for the whole time. So the 4 years that I was there, she was always there. And I utilized her to help me give me a little extra attention in certain areas of my skating. And so you just make it work, and you just try to do the best you can. And like I said, I'm thankful for the opportunities that I had there, and I think, and then Carlo was a big part of that, and I'm very thankful for it. And so, maybe I could have done something different, but at the same time, I did really well for what I had
when you're
at the time.
When you're a competitor, especially when you're getting stressed before competition, how aware of each other were you on those same sessions?
Oh,
If she didn't
every day.
belong with
I was telling Dave,
Yeah.
as a skater, you can know exactly what someone else is doing while you're on. You know, every jump you could recite their entire practice.
Exactly. I can't even. Like I said, I would try to keep so focused on myself, but you just can't help but look at that, and sometimes, you know, during those sessions it would drive me, and then some days I would struggle, you know. And I remember it was like before Worlds, when I was third in the world, it was like I almost didn't make the world team because I messed up a short program. I think that was double axel. I went to a triple sow rut into my takeoff, waxled it. And so there was a chance I couldn't make it to Worlds, and so I made it to Worlds. But I mean, like things like being at a press conference at Nationals, and you know, the news, you know, journalists, everybody were asking like, Carlo, well, who's your pick for Worlds? You know, and I'm sitting there, Jill's sitting there, she just won, I'm like third, and Debbie Thomas, and he's, you know, naming off not me, you know, and naming off whoever else, and you're just sitting there go like, wait a minute, what about me? Have you written me off yet? You know, that type of thing. And you walk out of there feeling like, boy, who's really on my side here? You know, and I've had wonderful people and support throughout skating, and my past coaches, or, you know, even Linda Lever, Brian Boitano's coach, who, you know, supported me through those times and believed in me too, to give me those ups when I didn't have it from my own coach, but, you know, went back to the grindstone and started training, and I think he meant well in that way. But you know, as a youngster, and you're new, and this is your whole life is riding on these moments in a way, and gearing up for the Olympics, you just feel like, where's my support? Where's my coach? And
did it make it all that more sweet though when you would get
yes,
attention from him?
Absolutely, that too. And then when I would get a medal at Worlds and say, look what you didn't predict.
You up a little
Hello.
bit. Yeah.
You didn't predict that I was going to be on the top, and here it was. And
would he do it intentionally? Because I think in gymnastics,
maybe
Caroli intentionally would do that, you know, games.
Maybe. Yeah, and I guess
them.
I didn't ever think that way because I'm not that type of person, but possibly because he would come into the rink and he had a great relationship with John Nix, and he would have conversations with him every day, and John Nix would be like, oh yeah, we have Tanya Harding coming up, and she has these big triple lutzes and all this stuff, and you know, we would hear stories about the West Coast and who was coming up, and so I think he tried to rile us up sometimes.
Well, you were closer with Christa, and Jill was a little bit closer with Carlo. Is that?
No, it was opposite.
Oh, really?
Yes, it was opposite. I mean, Jill didn't have her mom there. She was very close with Christa. I mean, they would hug after every day. It was like, you know, I had my mom there, and Carlo was closer to me throughout that whole time, and I had Connie Nakamura too. And then I would take once a day from Christa, but I feel like you know, she needed that, I think, woman in her life, and she didn't have her mom, and she lived with a couple, but you know, that was part of it, and she was very close with her. So I knew that's what was going on, and I was just thankful my mom was there with me.
Yeah.
So I had my little like internal team that was part of me.
Watch practice every day? I mean, Jill had a dad
No.
who was always on TV talking about her.
Never. Like, she was working. She was working to pay for the bills.
Was Jill's dad at the rink?
I know. In fact, he wasn't there, and she actually had a couple that she lived with, and that's who was really the person that would sometimes come to the rink. Now, my mom would come after work and watch maybe the night session that was going on, but yeah, my mom really, was my job to be responsible, and she trusted me, and I did. I really didn't take it for granted that we were there for that reason. So I appreciated every moment.
In watching some of the footage, you once talked about reporters characterizing you as like a nervous competitor.
Yeah.
So do you think that that's true? I mean, you won medals at nationals 4 years in a row.
Well, like, I mean, in a way, I think it was a little green just getting there later and not having experiences at an early age. And you can use that as your advantage or not, but at the same time, I think the second year I was at nationals, it was harder, just because the pressure, and I realized more of the cameras and everything else going on. And, catching up to that experience is hard. And then being put on the stage of like, oh, she's just a practice skater or she can't compete, I felt was a little unfair with the amount of experience I ever had. And so I tried my best, and I don't know, I think that everybody falters. You can see even today, there's just the mistakes that are made, and you hope that's not going to ruin your opportunity to be on the podium. But you kind of like, they didn't have anything else to say, so what are they going to say about me, right? I mean, come on. I mean, yeah, they really do. I mean, Debbie Thomas was going to med school, and I don't know. Yeah, the ballet mom, and I know Jill Trenery. I don't know. They try to come up with little things and stories so that they have something to say on TV, I'm sure.
It's hard as a skater not to listen to that and to then kind of get,
I know. I felt like that too a little bit, but at the same time, it took a long time to get there. So getting over the performance jitters or trying to put it all together was hard, and I was still trying to do that. So, and it's okay. I took it kind of the best I could, and I just kept striving for excellence and training really hard, really.
85, you won your first medal at nationals.
Yes.
And that year they had 2 spots for worlds.
Yeah, so I was the alternate.
Was it disappointing? Were you excited to okay.
Absolutely not, because I medaled, but then I was able to go to 2 internationals the following year. I didn't have to go through regionals or sectionals. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. I don't have to even go through that qualifying. After how many years I did that. I never had to do that again. I mean, because I kept making it and then getting internationals, and so it was something that I just felt very fortunate at that point.
The season after, you won silver at nationals
Yes.
and went to worlds. So what was your key to success that year?
Oh, wow. I felt I was in first place after the short program, and I didn't feel like I was very successful then because I got second, even though that was a success, but I skated last. I had to skate right after Debbie Thomas. And Debbie Thomas and I will talk about this too, and how she was injured like practically the whole week and kept complaining about her Achilles tendons and going like, I can't skate, and oh, this is terrible. And then all of a sudden coming up with the miracle performance of her life. And you sit there and you're sitting there going, oh my gosh, here we are. And the cameras are facing me. Carlo is watching her performance, coming out from the curtain in between and clapping for, I see him clapping for her. I'm like, are you getting me ready for this moment? I know, exactly. And I just felt like, wait a minute, I'm like, I don't know how to handle this, and then also you weren't ready for it yet. You just weren't ready for that moment, and you never know how you're going to do. And I faltered, and I ended up getting second, but I was so sad because I was almost able to win it at that moment. And so you go. It was wonderful I got second, but at the same time I was so close to win it, and I felt like I let down my club, I let down myself. You just feel just this grief, so I would say that I learned from that moment too, and it made me stronger. And then the next year, of course, was the 87, and that was like, okay, I'm going to train my hardest, and then when that happened, when I faltered into the rut in my axle, I just, like for the short program, I just couldn't believe it. So it was,
it's out of your control.
It's out of my control. Yeah, exactly. And so Worlds was like definitely an incredible moment for me, because that was just one of those things that I just vowed to myself that I'm going to do 3 great events and do the best I can, despite the fact that, I'm skating with the national champion and, my coaches are there for me, but I have to do this for myself. And in the end, that's what you have to do. It's like, no matter who's there and standing with you, you have to do it for you.
Were you rattled after those nationals in 87 when Jill did
yes.
and coming back? Okay.
Yeah, of course. But then it was like I was the dark horse, It was like there was no pressure on me, and it was all on her. So in a way, it was kind of like I could just get my job done and just go to the rink and not really have all the press and the publicity, but I was there to work and see what I can do.
Capitalize on being the underdog.
Totally. I mean, that was like what I did, and I think it really worked for me.
So when I was growing up in the sport, I remember that Jill was the winner of the triple flip, and you had a killer triple loop.
Yep.
And I hated triple loop, but you were like on that back end. So what was the key to your success on that jump? Because so many skaters struggle with the loop.
Well, it was a very natural jump from the beginning. And I remember I would go to the summertime. I went to the Broadmoor for the first time to take from Barbara Rolls when I was like 12. And it was a neat experience for me. I was like first year novice. And I remember working with, do you know Gregor Filipowski? Well, Gregor Filipowski from Poland, his coach, Barbara, looked at me and says, "You're going to have a very beautiful triple loop one day." You know, she just predicted it from that point. And I don't know whether just her saying that made me believe that I was going to have the best triple loop, you know, and I just thought, I said, well, I mean, at the same time, I think it was just so natural because I didn't really sit on that edge very long. It was like a 3-turn, you know, just the timing, it just scooping everything, and I never really, I fell on it twice, maybe just slipped a little bit a couple times, but I just really knew how to just line up my shoulder with my hip, back that, jump right into that back outside edge, and just extend. Yeah, it was very strong for me, and so I really felt that, you know, great coaching that I had as, you know, at a younger age from one of my coaches back in Rockford, Illinois, Charlene Garino. She taught me all of my technique, and thank goodness, because I understood what I was supposed to do in the air, on the takeoff, you know, how to check out. She really helped me a lot. So. Speaking
of jumps and techniques, one of the stories I heard about you from Brian Boitano is that you had a triple flip in 1987, and Carlo told you to stop doing it. Is that true?
Yes!
Okay. You know, if the ladies had 4 triples, this would have been your money. Like, what is this?
I don't know. I think
Caryn
because
didn't have a triple flip then.
No,
she earlier. But
well, all of us pretty much had 3 triples, depending on, because you know, so Jill had the triple sow, triple toe, and triple flip. I had the triple sow, triple toe, and triple loop, and so did Katerina and Debbie Thomas. So nobody was really doing all the triples except for like Midori Ito, and I think it was Elizabeth Manley, but she had the triple Lutz. She had a triple Lutz, but I'm not sure if she had all of the triples, but
she was very consistent.
very close to it. And I just thought, well, I think he just didn't think I needed it at the time, and felt like, well, why? But I think maybe he was thinking about Jill, and you never know. And I'm not saying that could have been his, you know, focus, but I would imagine I would have to say that, yeah, I could have kept going, you know, on the jumps, but I didn't. And I'd only landed 9 in my life, and it was pretty cool. But yeah, at the same time, it's too bad. But I think if I would have stayed maybe a little bit longer with the coach that taught me my technique and kept going with the triples, I probably would have done them all. Yeah, doing them all of them. Yeah, completely. So yeah, and at that time and era, it just wasn't what we were going to do. It was like doing 5 triples in the program was enough. And I had like 9 jump passes. I mean, who has 9 jump passes in their program now? And 4 spins and 2,
half loop, single loop.
Yeah, half loop, double, yeah, or that, yeah, whatever we did. But people were just like throwing in a jump, even if they didn't do it over there, but they did it over here. And then, you know, our spins weren't very long, and we just did these like fast footwork sequences that didn't have to be all twined up and to the beat and the mohawks and the turn and the, you know, whatever else we did. So, but they were fast. I mean, we skated so fast.
Stop in those programs. Well, after winning that world bronze medal in 1987, you started to work with Toller on choreography for the Olympics.
Yes.
And so how did that come about?
Well, I would go to Toronto to get my outfits done by Mrs. Sandor, and I did that for probably since 87. I started going to her. And I think I learned about, I would go to the cricket club because I took also from Sander Bezic for choreography, and he was actually at that rink. And then I heard of him and I just thought, well, I love his style. My mom always loved his skating, and we just thought, well, maybe he's available for choreography, and thought it might be a good fit. And I just enjoyed him so much, and he was just a great support of my skating, but he just showed me just the artistic side of skating too, in such a way that I was so happy that I was able to experience him. And now that he's gone, I just, it's just been, he's so artistic and beautiful. I mean, he's such a character himself, and I'm so glad I got to know him. Yes, he totally did. Yeah.
Well, going in the Olympics in '88, there was the showdown was between the Battle of the Carmens, Debbie and Katarina. It's in Canada, so Liz Manley, you think politically has it. Were you worried about your medal chances going in?
I was just coming off of being the world bronze medalist, feeling confident, that I was trained and I felt very good as far as the Olympics went. I mean, my nationals didn't go as well, especially my long program, but I was really determined to be there and really compete well. So, like I said, like the figures, and I made that mistake on my loop on the last figure, and then my short program went really well. But that morning I woke up with 100.5 temperature, and what they did was they had 8 girls to a dorm, 2 in each room, a living space, and 1 bathroom to all of us. And the week prior, it was like the girls always go the second week. And so the first week, we go in for the opening ceremonies. Jill and I went back and trained for a week prior, because it was only in Colorado Springs and Calgary are the same time zone, level of, altitude, things like that, pretty much. And we came back, and the girls that competed in the pairs in the dance, 2 of them got sick, and they had the flu. And why wouldn't they have taken those girls out if they immediately had some sickness? That's probably our
the whole
right, yeah, pretty much, and our team doctor and stuff like that. So Jill didn't stay, and she didn't want to stay in the dorm. So I wanted to have that experience. I wanted to be in with the Olympic Village and be with my teammates and meet all the other competitors from other countries. And I think that I just was destined. It was never part of like a dorm room atmosphere, and I guess I never would have thought that I would either need a flu shot, let alone get the flu
at the Olympics.
The
biggest moment of your life.
Right. So I thought it was like a 24-hour thing, and it was like I had the.
Did you wake up like what?
I was sick. I had I felt it in my throat, and then I had the fever, and I wasn't feeling quite well. And of course, the adrenaline of the moment helped me get through that day for sure for the short program. And being so well trained, you can do it.
Well, you did such a great short. I mean, how frustrated were you to be in 6th? Because a lot of people thought you did one of the best short programs.
Right. Well, I don't know. I honestly, I think just being in that moment anyway at the Olympics, I mean, you just, it's a lot of pressure, and you just want to do your best, and that's all that counts. I mean, you can walk away saying, I feel great about that. So I don't think I was really upset. I was just happy that I was at the place I was in the last warm-up group for the last program for the long, and but that night it went up to 103.5, and it was awful. Like, I mean, just was so sick. Every part of my body hurt. Fever, nauseated, sick. Went to the doctor, and they even gave me a shot to help me with nausea. That I reacted to, so my eyes dilated. Tongue was like slurry a little bit. I couldn't believe it. I mean, it was just one of those things. I don't think they really knew how to handle that situation. But at the same time, I think it could have been prevented by taking some of the other competitors out that were very sick. And it was actually going around the dorms too. So I don't know. And at that time, I remember in Calgary, the weather was unusually warm too. So the change of weather and everything, I think, didn't help matters either.
Do you remember the night of the long program?
I don't. I don't know who skated or who skated or anything. I know that they interviewed me at one point.
I remember what you were in your dorm room.
Well, it was not in the dorm, but they took me out of the dorm since I was so sick, and I wanted to be with my family. And I was staying with my they were staying with my host, the host family for my. had people throughout Calgary families that took in the families of the competitors. So that's where I went, and that's where they interviewed me, I guess. But it was a little odd, I think. I think that, it's the people that you think are your supporters that don't believe that you're as sick as you are, and and
people
so
thought you were
I think,
making it up?
yeah, I don't know. I think I don't know. I would never want to not skate the Olympics, so why would they say that? But I don't know if that was behind all that or whether that, but I guess they just did that, but I know it's a little odd. I think that they would interview me at that moment, but at the same time, it is what it is. I think at that time, there's a lot of people that, get out the first gate from like going downhill on, the run and don't even get to the first gate, and then they fall or something, and that's their moment. Done. Right. They're done, and they worked all those years just to get to the Olympics, and they didn't even get past the first gate because they fell. So you just getting out of the first, I'm like, how can that happen? Or, Dan Jansen, he's like, he falls, or there's been many moments of people's life and it doesn't ruin their life, and it didn't ruin their careers.
It doesn't define your career.
No, it doesn't, because, I had a wonderful professional career after that, and I think I flourished even more as a professional than I did, and it was so much longer than my amateur career.
Well, you did choose to go on to Worlds after the Olympics.
I did, which was
tough. I was going to say, talk us through that event, because it was a little tough for you.
Well, I was still a little bit sick, of course, I was sick, but then my mom got the flu at the same time. I was like, she got it from me, and was horrible for her, and then I got this sinus infection, so I was trying to get back for Worlds, but there was only 3 weeks in between. So it was really not advantageous for me to do it. And so I fell so hard on my hip because my equilibrium was off, and I would do some triples and I would fall so hard, and I had a huge hematoma at Worlds, so I would be getting therapy on that while I was there. And I would just I just made it through. It wasn't a great experience for me. I was exhausted, and I just remember feeling so exhausted, and taller trying to give me support and get me pumped up for it. But it was just not, I think it was just so exhausting. I couldn't even let me just survive it and get through the long program, whatever. And then I went off to do only half of the international skating tour that they put on every year for all the top competitors, and I didn't do the whole thing. So that year was tough because I dealt with a lot of issues. I had some injury, and then I dealt with a tonsillectomy and other little medical things that went on that year. So that really put me down for about a year, and I never really competed, and then I waited to turn pro, and so I took that year to kind of heal probably from the whole experience. Sure, mentally and physically.
Had you skated at all in '89? Did you program, or was?
I tried to train and try to get back into it, but in between all of the things that were going on with me, it was very difficult. And then I ended up just not skating nationals, and then decided to turn pro. And that was a big decision in my life. So.
Well, you really defined your career as a professional skater. And I remember growing up every Saturday, it seemed, I watched your Celine Dion program. It's all coming back to me. And that was your signature program. And it said that Brian Boitano had a part in the choreography. So
well, he actually had a part in picking that program for me, because I would do his Romance on Ice specials, and he just wanted to have a hand in probably picking the certain programs for people. And then I had Leanne Miller choreograph that for me. So it was just one of those combined efforts, and it worked out so well for me. Yeah, I love that program.
This choreography, Caryn, because we need to have a moment with it. The look. Come on, show us, Caryn. Come on.
It's all coming back.
And then the Mambo Italiano one.
Hey, Mambo. Oh, I know. And Leah Miller picked that program for sure, and that turned out so neat. I really was thankful for that one too. But it's just signature pieces that define your career. and you know, it was wonderful to be able to like experiment with just different looks and do so many programs and not have really the pressure of competing at nationals and at worlds, and just feeling like I can experiment with all of that I never got to before as an amateur. So.
Well, you had a moment to that program at the World Pros.
Yes.
I believe in '96.
Yes.
So how big does that rank, and how big did that competition rank?
Oh my goodness! I'll just.
Competitions used to be
They were like serious.
Yeah.
You were against Christy and
Yuka.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Katerina. All.
How does that rank to like nationals?
It did. You know, you have to understand, like when I would do also the U.S. Pro-Ams, they would get everybody like Michelle Kwan and Nancy Kerrigan and Jill Trenery, and we were all at these competitions, and we got Tanya Harding, and they would get different people every time. So I did 11 of those Pro-Ams, but when I never thought in a million years that I would win a professional competition. That's how big these competitions would be, because I felt like, oh, you kind of have to be the Olympic champion or the national champion and world champion, and I felt like for me I would really have to continue to work hard putting in my triples and adding as much content as I could to see if I could win. And when I won my first one, I just felt like it was like an amazing moment for me, because I was competing against all these great people that were friends or people that were in the past, but then in my future that I've never competed against before. So I was thinking, up and comers, and then I felt like, wow, this is pretty cool. And then I went on to win 7 professional championships. It was like Canadian Pro and U.S. Open Pro and, you know, the U.S. Ladies Pro, and I mean, Masters Miko in Paris, and I mean, I just went on to win all these competitions.
You were on TV every single week.
Yeah, exactly. It was crazy.
Yeah.
But then I knew that if I would do well, then I'd be asked back. Right. So that was the whole deal. Like good incentive, and you know, there were so many great opportunities then in the 90s. I mean, we had Battle of the Sexes and World against the U.S. or I don't know what, I mean, Skating Times 2 and all these amazing events that were exciting for us to be a part of, and you wanted to do well so that you'd be asked back. And I mean, you made a great income, and I mean, there were so many incentives. I'm wearing the earrings still from Battle of the Sexes. You know, I mean, necklaces and earrings and motorcycles, and you're just like, well, okay, this is awesome. You know, why wouldn't you want to skate well for that? And that was great for us to feel like that was a reward for the things that we did, all the hard work, and I felt like, that was kind of like my win in life. And not to say that I didn't win getting to the amateur career that I did and the Olympics and everything. Those are great things. Those are goals since I was 8 years old. I said I want to make it to nationals and the Olympics. Those are my goals. I didn't say to win. I should have said that.
Yeah. Not that I actually knew I could do it. Like, clarify those goals a little bit more.
I know, exactly. But like I said, well, at least I accomplished my goals in life. So.
Well, you talk about that you coach now.
I do.
So do you skate at all?
I don't skate as much anymore, and a lot of my students wish I did, and I do teach a couple adult students too, and they're always like, come on, if we can do it, you can still do it. And I do here and there, and my students actually, they're funny. They go, okay, if we win this competition, you have to go out and do double flip or double axel or wherever I do. So, and they do win sometimes, and I'm like, I do. I'll go out there and just do it. And I don't know. I never say never, because if I'm asked to do a show again, or I'll get out there probably and do it. I'll work hard.
Do your Celine Dion program? That's all I ask.
Yeah.
We'll have to see. I don't know. That was a moment. I don't know if I can duplicate that.
Take it. You want to keep it as it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, as we wrap up our interviews, we like to end on a fun note.
Okay.
So what Dave and I are going to do, we're going to say the name of someone in the skating world, and we want to hear the first word that comes to mind. Okay? I'm going to start with Katarina Witt.
Oh my goodness. The first word, Katarina Witt. I don't even have to say it. Well, no, I would have to say, God, you're putting me on the spot. Tough competitor.
So Jill Trenery.
Oh my God, you can't do this to me.
We only have a couple.
Jill Trenery. Oh my gosh.
Just Does Ashley Wagner remind you of her?
A little bit. Yeah, I would have to say.
Kind of
Yeah.
scary.
Yeah, she's, I would have to say, yeah, I'd say feisty.
How about Joanne Conway?
I'd say sweet.
How about Carlo?
A character.
Christa?
Tough.
So how about Roz, one of your competitors at these pro championships?
My competitors here?
Roz.
Oh, Roz. Oh, love bug.
Okay. How about Debbie Thomas?
Oh, I'd say comedian.
Liz Manley?
Can't stop talking.
And our last skater, Brian Boitano.
Solid. Yeah.
Thank you, Caryn. This was so fun.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
Oh
for
my
coming on
God.
the skating lesson.
Well, thank you so much.